Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side podcast. We are here after two major things in the NBA happened today. The Knicks took a 3-1 series lead over the Celtics, and the Mavericks ended up winning the NBA draft lottery, and we'll get into both of those things. But first off, we definitely have to mention that when the Knicks won this game and went up 3-1, Jayson Tatum did get hurt. It looks like a serious injury. He couldn't put any weight on his leg, and you never want a team to win in that way with the game basically already ending. I just think it sucks. And I know, Des, you could speak more on it because you're a Celtics fan. You probably felt a lot of emotions, just watching it happen. Um, I think nobody wants to watch a game, especially with how well Tatum was playing with his heart on his sleeve and really giving everything he had in this game. He was otherworldly. He was perfect. He was that good in this game. But what were your initial thoughts?
Um, Honestly, when it first happened, I didn't think it was going to be serious because Tatum never gets seriously hurt. I have seen him in the past, and people get on him for exaggerating injuries. I remember when he rolled his ankle against the Kings at the end of March. He was excruciating pain, screaming, and he just rolled an ankle and missed 1 or 2 games. So that's where my mind immediately goes, just like, okay, he's fine, whatever. Like, he's on the ground, but once he put his face on the floor and you saw him like start choking up and you could tell that like it looks like he's crying, that's when I really felt like, oh, this could be something terrible. And then you see the replays and we've all seen what it looks like. I mean, for whatever reason, if it's something freak and it's not a torn Achilles, God bless, but there's a 99.9% chance it's a torn Achilles. We've seen it a million different times. It's probably the one injury that every sports fan can pick out because it looks so weird. It's usually non-contact. You could put no weight on it. We've seen it, Aaron Rodgers, Kevin Durant, Jayson Tatum today. It sucks, man. He was just turned 27, just entering his prime. I felt like this was his best season up until this point in his career. I thought it was his best regular season. I thought against Orlando, it was one of his best playoff series. First round, not as important, but just the way he was playing, the way he had command of this offense. And this was his probably best individual game in at least 2 years, right? Probably going back to game 6 against Philly. The way he was coming out super hot. He was hitting his threes. He was attacking the basket defensively. He had his mark all over this game early in the first quarter, causing multiple turnovers, getting out in transition. You mentioned it, Joel, he was perfect in this game. Both sides of the ball, facilitating, being active on defense, scoring. It was just everything that Jayson Tatum does well was on display tonight. And the fact that it ends like that is just devastating. We could talk about what this means for the future of the Celtics because they were going to be making changes this offseason. We already knew that. The report had came out, about a month ago at this point that they don't want to be a second apron team for the second year because then some of these restrictions really start kicking in. And with this Tatum injury, he's out all of next year, right? Like maybe he comes back in April, but like I don't know how good the Celtics are going to be without him next year. Be a playoff team, but not like a top 2 seed or anything. So the changes could be even more drastic because you could be looking at next year like a lost year as is, right? Like if you don't have Jayson Tatum, you're not competing for a championship. I don't know if you're even competing for an ECF. I mean, I love Jaylen Brown. I love him to death. My second best player, my second favorite player in the league. He was awful tonight. The numbers might look a little nice, but I felt like he had no control offensively in this game. Of course, he's been dealing with injury too, so I want to give him a little bit of slack here. But there's gonna be a lot of changes made, and the fact that Tatum will likely miss all of next season makes me think that the Celtics could get even more aggressive in trades. Right? Is Jaylen Brown and Porzingis and Drew all on the block now instead of maybe a retooling? You could be really looking at like we're going all in for 26, 27 because right now it feels like the 25, 26 season is going to be lost. Porzingis 2 years in a row, first year dealt with the injury, second year dealing with this weird illness. He had probably his best game of the series tonight, but he was nowhere near what he was in the regular season, really all series long. Derek White was the only guy that showed up tonight. Al Horford hit like one shot. Drew Holiday is doing things defensively, offensively, gave you nothing. Thought Jaylen Brown had a pretty poor performance. So it's brutal, man. Credit to the Knicks. Like we'll talk about Tatum, but I think the Knicks are going to win this game regardless, right? They came back from 14 points. That third quarter, Jalen Brunson played out of his mind. And then the fourth quarter, Mikal Bridges once again showing up in the fourth quarter, hitting countless mid-range shots, and they were all net. it felt like the Knicks couldn't miss in that fourth quarter. And when they did miss, they would get some offensive rebounds. So regardless of this Tatum injury, it doesn't take anything away from what New York did. And what New York did was pull off one of the biggest upsets we have seen in our life. Nobody gave the Knicks a chance, us three included, Vegas, everyone you talk to. There was nobody you can find that had any faith that the Knicks could even take this to 6 or 7 games, let alone win this series potentially in 5. So I think it just really goes to show how great this Knicks team has been, because it's a lot of guys that have gotten overlooked or discredited. Jalen Brunson, second round pick, let go of by Dallas. Karl-Anthony Towns, looked at as a playoff dropper, gets traded by his hometown franchise after they make the WCF. Mikal Bridges gets clowned the entire season for all of these firsts they gave up, and he showed up time and time again. Josh Hart's always one of the most overlooked guys. So as much as I'm sick about it, the Knicks outplayed Boston, at least in this game, right? It's tough though, man. It is tough to see my favorite player, my favorite sports player, period, go down like this. The only thing I could hope is just, it's he can replicate what Kevin Durant did, and Kevin Durant did it at an older age. He did it, 5 years ago at this point. So you think medicine's even better, because the track record of Achilles aren't great. Kevin Durant's really the only guy you're looking at saying he came back just as good, if not better. So that's really the only thing I'm holding on hope for, that he could come back, and just with the medicine that we have and all the doctors, that he could return to this top 5 level, because it's a brutal injury to have. It's the worst injury you could possibly have. And it was the worst time for Boston, because you're going down 3-1, series is over, season's over, and it feels like next season is over already, and we haven't even played a game yet.
Not gonna lie, a lot of thoughts. So I'm gonna try my best to keep them organized. First off, Dels, I'm sorry, King. This is brutal. This is really tough. As someone who, obviously you guys know, I want the Knicks to win. The Jayson Tatum news is kind of putting a damper on things. You never want to see a player, period, go out, let alone the caliber of Jayson Tatum. And you have to give him his flowers, what he did tonight. You guys said it spot on. He was flawless tonight. He could do whatever he wanted with the basketball. The jump shot was on. His ability to get downhill, the playmaking was on full effect. He was the best version of himself that we've seen this playoffs. And like you mentioned, Dels, I think it's spot on. I think this is the best performance that he's had in a playoff since Game 7, when he went for 50 against Philadelphia. He was unbelievable tonight. For it to be the case that we're leaving this game and we don't know what the future holds for not just the Boston Celtics, but obviously for Jayson Tatum, it's tough to sit with. We throw all these jokes about the Celtics, but when push comes to shove, we acknowledge Jayson Tatum when it comes to him and his stature and his standing in the league. He's a superstar, and that was on display today. I thought that if you guys were to have won this year's championship, you had a chance for a three-peat. Maybe ownership would have been a little bit more open to the idea, hey, let's keep this core together. Let's try and three-peat. Let's make history. I think with this Jayson Tatum injury, I'm with you. I don't see the reality of trying to go ahead and go all in on keeping these guys together, because realistically, now you're down 3-1. It looks as if, especially if Jayson Tatum's going to miss the remainder of this series, the Knicks should close out this series, whether it's in 5-6 games. You respect the foundation that you guys still have without Tatum, but the truth is, you guys aren't, or you guys haven't been this great when Jayson Tatum has been off the court in this playoffs. He's been your main catalyst for both offense and maybe not defense, but you understand what he provides on that side of the ball. It sucks. It's really terrible. I'm praying for the best for Jayson Tatum. It really is a bummer to see him go down in this series. Now, for the New York Knicks, again, I'm going to try and make light of a bad situation, but up 3-1. We're able to handle business. Down double digits yet again. In your third win, down double-digit points in all 3 wins, the resiliency that this team has shown. And listen, I'm a man that loves to admit when he is wrong. And ever since I tweeted 5 firsts, I will never forgive Leon Rose. It just goes to show that Leon just knows more basketball than I can ever imagine. Since that tweet got sent out, Mikal Bridges has done nothing but show his worth to the team. And especially tonight with the clutch bucket after clutch bucket, it just seemed like he was not going to miss if he was taking a shot in the mid-range. Just that fading midi, it was just on all game. but two players have justified me more than anybody else. OG Anunoby and Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns was sensational tonight. He was the version of Karl Anthony Towns that you were hoping for in this series, understanding that if there is one mismatch that the Knicks needed to exploit, it's that you need to beat them with size, and Karl Anthony Towns has done that. But OG Anunoby, man, I just can't say enough about him. The offensive leap that we've seen from him, the big shot making, it's giving me goosebumps legitimately right now. He has been unbelievable. From the Brunson injury all the way to where we're at right now, the confidence that he's showing on the offensive side, it's speaking for itself, and it shows in the numbers. His jump shot has been incredible. And in a game like today, with all the tough shots that he's making, you have to give him his flowers in this game too. Mikal and OG. That was the idea this offseason when it came to playing the Boston Celtics. We got these two wings to go out there and stop the opposing two wings, of course, with Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You weren't stopping Jayson Tatum tonight, but you did a great job of limiting Jaylen Brown and making him look extremely uncomfortable. And in big-time situations, we've seen the defense from these two guys be at the forefront of these wins. Amazing performance from them. And then, of course, the king of New York, Jalen Brunson. I can't believe he's this good. I cannot believe that we actually might be watching the best Knick of all time. And with a championship, I think that secures it. But to be one of the heaviest underdogs that we've seen in recent memory, I honestly, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm allowing the moment to get the best of me. Is this not the biggest upset since 2011? Since the Mavericks beat the Miami Heat? Like, realistically, nobody gave them a shadow. There was no chance the Knicks were supposed to beat the Boston Celtics, especially with the Boston Celtics being healthy. Now, I know that they're not the healthiest version of themselves. Of course, KP, Drew's a bit banged up. Jalen's a bit banged up. Tatum had the wrist injury, even though it didn't look to bother him tonight when he was playing at 100%. The Knicks have just been resilient all season long. And in the moments where they didn't play great against great teams, in the biggest moments of the season, we're seeing them rise to the occasion. I can't say enough good things about the Knicks. It's been an incredible ride for them. I got to give nothing but praise to what they're doing. And again, I'm okay to be wrong about Mikal, because since that moment of me just nonstop shitting on him, he has been huge and one of the key contributors to the Knicks being up 3-1.
I want to start on the Tatum conversation of things, because I think if you lose this series, it was with Tatum healthy, you kind of just say to yourself, we just run it back next year. It is what it is. Wasn't our best year. We weren't our healthiest. We got to figure some things out, maybe a change of philosophy, because I do think Joe Mazzulla has been outcoached by Tibbs in this series, especially in game 4. With the Tatum injury now, not only do I think it's going to reveal his value to everybody that watches the NBA, but it also puts the Celtics in a bit of a tricky situation of what direction they want to approach. They're clearly talented enough to compete for a playoff spot. Can they compete for a title? Probably not. You look at the second apron stuff that's heading their way. Do they want to spend a lot of money on a very expensive roster? Drew Holiday is only getting older. His value is only going to lessen. You might want to move off of him. Kristaps Porzingis, I see a lot of Celtics fans talk about it, and you can see it when you watch him. He just hasn't looked himself this year, and he's very expendable. I also think that he is somebody that, back to his Dallas days, he is prone to not show up in big moments. They won the championship without him last year. I think he becomes expendable. And then Al Horford, he's only getting older. So I think the Celtics are kind of caught in a tough situation with this Tatum injury, that not only do you have to think about regrouping for next year, but you have to wonder that when Tatum does eventually come back, if Drew, if Porzingis, if Horford are still going to be on this team. Tatum might come back 2 seasons from now, and the only player left on this team that we see currently on the roster is Derek White and Jaylen Brown, and that is it.
Yeah, I think I say it all the time, but windows are never as big as you think they are. And of course, no one anticipates your best player tearing his damn Achilles. That shortens everybody's window in the NBA. But That's why it's so important that regardless of what the path is, regardless of what anyone says, you take advantage of your opportunity, right? Like that's why last year Boston finally breaking through and win the championship. Of course, as a fan, you're so excited, but it puts into perspective like how every run is so crucial because you do need everything to go right, right? Like you need to be healthy and you need some breaks along your way. I mean, it's hard to find really any champion over the last 5+ years at this point that didn't get a break, whether it was their opposition, getting banged up, whether it was them staying healthy, them getting the calls. It's just when you're a champion, when you win the championship, those things just break your way. That's why you end up winning the championship, right? So I think what you said is right, Joel. The Celtics are in a bit of a crossroads right now because I thought going into the offseason, there would be some moves for sure, right? It felt like the easiest was Porzingis just because he's been unavailable mostly for the last 2 years. And then it felt like this playoff run really put a cap on it. And it's an illness that they've kind of figured out. They said they figured it out, but there seems to be no treatment for it. I don't really know what it is, but the fact that he has played so poorly throughout this playoffs, he's loved in Boston. Boston fans, at least when they're in the Garden, love him. I know on Twitter it's different, but Twitter's a whole different world. So I think it makes moving off him just a little bit easier. Honestly, if the bright side is just he was so bad in these playoffs that I think Celtics fans are gonna be like, you know what, I see it. The only player I really feel confident is 100% going to be staying is Derek White.
Facts.
Yeah, just because his contract is like 30 something million a year, 32 million. This is one of the best 3-point shooters, one of the best defenders. Plays, is durable. He's the only one that I have real confidence is going to be here for the next couple of seasons. Everyone else is on the table. You ran through the list. Al Horford is old. Jaylen Brown, I think is going to stay. But again, like if you could go and make a huge move, like Jaylen Brown's probably a big piece in that. Porzingis we talked about, Drew Holiday's old. So outside of Derek White, man, this team's going to look a lot different. And the only thing I can really think of right now is just Jayson Tatum. Hopefully he could, get back and, be what he was, be who he was. This was top 5 player to me. Again, this was his best season to me. And it's a shame that he couldn't cap it off. And, the way he would have thought, like if the Celtics, and again, the Knicks would have won this game regardless of the injury, but like Jayson Tatum finishes this game with a W. We're like, oh shit, this was his second or third best performance ever. Like that was the type of time he was on. This is one of the best performances we've seen in this playoffs. Like that's how dominant he was. And it's just such a twist to the gut that it ends like this, I'm happy he got to go off with such an amazing performance and giving his team his all when really nobody else other than White was showing up. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting offseason. The first time in a while, really, for Boston, at least 2 years where you're like, holy shit, like I really don't know what's going to happen. Because even the offseason where Porzingis and Drew Holiday get traded, we weren't really expecting it, right? Like we had thought maybe there could be moves be made, but Marcus Smart's going to get we did not anticipate those moves to happen. So this is the first offseason in, years for at least this Jays era that we're going into the offseason. Like there's going to be some massive turnover. There could be 3 different starters in the starting lineup next season. I'm happy Brad Stevens is the president of basketball operations because he's one of the smartest, and I have all the faith in the world he'll be able to figure it out. But what you said is right, Joel. Again, Twitter is such a weird place that I don't take seriously. But if you want to take it seriously just for this exercise, people think Tatum is whack and he's a super team merchant and they would be fine without him. Wait till you see next season, because I think this is a team that is probably be a top 6 seed still, just because the East really isn't that good. But you're going to see the massive, massive loss on him because they go from a title favorite for majority of the season to a team that realistically could get bounced in the first round.
And we're going to see if Jaylen Brown can be the number 1 guy for the entirety of the season. I don't think that Brad Stevens is going to wave the white flag next year. I would be shocked. I think maybe this is a year where they try to build the roster more around Jaylen Brown and they say, okay, let's see how far you can take us if you were just the main focal point of this. Not a one-to-one comparison, but Michael Jordan retiring and then Scottie Pippen just taking a mantle and leading the Bulls to top seeds in the Eastern Conference. It's not a one-to-one comparison, but I think Jaylen Brown has shown you in flashes that maybe he can take on a bigger role. And sometimes he's kind of been a little bit subliminal in wanting that. So I think now he's kind of forced into it. I think Tatum has just been one of the most durable players since he's got into the NBA. 8 years, he's played over 700 games, regular season and the playoffs. I mean, there's somebody that has a lot of mileage on his body and has been one of the most durable players in his career. And not too long ago, I made a comparison on Twitter with him and Kevin Durant in the first 8 seasons because Tatum's a 6-time All-Star. He's going to be a 5-time All-NBA player. He's a champion. He's a conference finals MVP. He has a great resume for his age, and I wish this injury didn't happen because he would have just kept stacking onto that resume. And even if the Knicks won this game, if Tatum finished it, which I think was a huge possibility, the series was not over. The Celtics are capable of rattling off 3 wins in a row. I mean, they did it when they were down 3 games to 0 against the Heat when they were favored against them. So this team is capable of that. But without Tatum, it does feel kind of like it is over. I just am curious on how he's going to adjust to it because we already think that he's a little bit too jump shot heavy. Over the last 4 seasons, he shot 35% on his 3-point shots on 9 attempts. Over the last 3 playoffs, he shot 31% from 3. And I think a big reason why Kevin Durant was able to adjust to his injury when it happened, even at his older age, was because he didn't rely on his athleticism as much. And he had one of the most efficient jump shots that we've ever seen. So I think this is a moment for Tatum to an adjustment period for him to what is he going to be next? Is he going to be more jump shot reliant, improve that jump shot, and just get that to a heightened level? So I think there's going to be a huge adjustment period for him, but I believe in his work ethic. I believe in the amount of time that
100%.
he puts into it. So I think he'll be fine. I don't think this is one of those scenarios where this injury kind of zaps the player that we saw. I think Tatum is going to come back from this and he's still going to be an elite player.
Dells, let me say this to you though, man. I really can't disagree with you, not even a little bit, in terms of how you guys look next year without Tatum, because you've had the luxury, at least this season, to not have to play with a legitimate one. And you've had that luxury over these last couple of seasons, really, where Jayson Tatum's your primary ball handler, your primary playmaker. He has been, and that leap has been super evident in how amazing he has been at getting better at being a playmaker and being a facilitator. I'm very interested to see next season if, obviously, let's hope this isn't the case. But if Jayson Tatum unfortunately is out for the entirety of the 2025 season, who becomes that lead guard? Is it just going to be full-time Derek White now? Because Derek White obviously has shown the flashes to be able to do so. And then, of course, you talk about Jaylen Brown. That's intriguing to me personally.
Not a
Obviously,
playmaker.
no, not at all. But I'm talking more so in the sense, in the lens of saying this is a number one scorer. And you talk about Michael Jordan, you talk about Scottie Pippen. It's the opposite. It's like Jayson Tatum has the abilities and the talents that Scottie had, where he was a great passer, great defender, can score the basketball at an extremely high level. It's just that, again, nobody's calling Jaylen Brown Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was a much better playmaker than Jaylen Brown was, but that's his job, to go ahead and score the basketball, to play high level defense, not that much of a playmaker. So that's where next season for me becomes a real difficulty with the Celtics, as who's going to be that guy that's going to facilitate the offense? Is it just going to be Derek White? Is Drew Holiday gone? We know that he has that capability. So who's going to be your backup guy? Are we just going to Peyton Pritchard? I just have so many questions when I look at this Celtics team without Tatum.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a decision Brad Stevens is going to have to make. Do we continue to try to compete without our best player, or do we kind of try to retool the roster so we are better with our best player? Because I think it's a tricky dynamic to manage and balance out, because if they try to go all in for next year with Tatum likely out, then you're really strapping yourself to an aging roster with some players that might have had value on the market that you could have gotten assets for. And they do own their 2026 first round pick. So like a mediocre season wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if they got like this 15th or 16th pick in the draft. So I think it's going to be tough for Brad Stevens to balance out. I do think that Porzingis is probably on the move, though. I think that's the first move they got to kind of address, and it's going to leave them with a big hole at center next year.
Yeah, you just wonder what the trade value is on most of these guys. Like Drew Holiday is 34, 35 years old. He's only going to want to play for a contender, right? Like he's made that known throughout his career. Like I'm not going to some whack team. It's not like some rebuilding team's going to trade for Drew Holiday, but he just got paid last offseason. Multiple years left on that contract. He's been great as a Celtic in the playoffs. So I think that like playoff dropper is kind of off his name now. Still, you saw the level of defense he was playing on Brunson. Really outside today, Brunson was getting the better of everybody. But those first 3 games, he had, gave Brunson hell all 3 of those games. So he's still a high level player. It's just the market's probably not going to be huge for him. Again, a couple of teams are going to be interested just because of his age, contract, and Drew Holiday's side too, wanting to play for them. Porzingis is another one who maybe he has a larger market because maybe there's just some people think untapped potential, and you see the ceiling of Porzingis. Like if everything goes right for him, he can play 65 games and he's number 1 option. Like, can he be like a 3rd-team All-NBA guy and All-Star level? Like that's what Porzingis has. So maybe he has a bit more trade value than last season. Just Jaylen Brown. Like number 1 is Boston interested because up till this point, the only guy they've been willing to move off Brown for was Kevin Durant a few off seasons ago. Everyone else, it's off the table. Jaylen Brown is not available, and that's another guy who got paid $300 million. And I'm sure he would have a bigger market just because he has playoff success. He's shown to be an All-NBA level player. He's shown to be a two-way player. He's shown in the finals to be an extraordinary defender. So the package, or excuse me, the market would definitely be there. But again, it's like these guys all have huge contracts, right? And it's going to be hard for Brad to kind of make this roster work. Because I don't think you're going into next season trying to win shit. Like respectfully, I don't think you could go into this offseason and be like, oh, we need to make moves around the edges to really compete in 25, 26. I think Brad knows that. I think everyone in the organization knows like it's going to be a bit of a rebuilding year, a bit of a gap year where, you try to fight your ass off for like 47 wins and get into the playoffs and hopefully you win a playoff series. But there's going to be a lot of changes in the offseason.
So on to the next part of this. Listen, Dels, I give you a lot of respect, and I'm sure the comments have given you a lot of respect for showing up despite a loss. And this is even more gut wrenching than a loss because Tatum went down. So I give you a lot of respect, and I'm gonna go easy on you. I'm not gonna say nothing to you.
You can give it to me, man.
I'm not gonna say nothing to you. I ain't gonna give it to you rough, Dels. I'm not. Because really, there's one game away until we make the conference finals. Last year was very disappointing and heartbreaking when we lost to the Pacers and they came back when we were up 2-0. The last time I was delusional about the Knicks was when they signed Kemba Walker, and I thought they'd be a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. I thought Kemba Walker still had a little bit of life in him, and it was after, I thought nothing could get worse for us. And that was the last time I was that delusional about the Knicks. And then I started coming back a little bit when we signed Brunson because I thought Brunson would be a star. I didn't think he'd be this, but I thought he'd be a star just based on what he did in Dallas. And I was a big fan of his. But then the pessimism started to kick in. And I was very pessimistic about this team this year. There's a lot of things that have happened over the course of the playoffs that I've been very proud of when it came to the team. I think number one, I saw a big switch in Mikal Bridges when every single third quarter we played like absolute trash against the Pistons. And he led the group, had a layup line. And from that moment on, at least in that series, we came out on fire in the third quarter and we just played much better. And I've seen Mikal Bridges take on a leadership role for this team. Be that commanding force, be that passionate and emotional leader for the team. And there was something I did not expect because when he was on the Suns and they lost in the finals to the Bucks, he was in an interview and he said and made some comments that I wasn't so fond of. He thought that they already had the series won and he was all lackadaisical. It's clear that he's learned from that moment and he's taking more of an onus to be that vocal leader on the team. That's number one. Karl-Anthony Towns, these past couple of games for him were rough. He didn't impose his will in the way that he imposed it in this game. A common criticism on Cat has been not being able to take advantage of mismatches. This series, they have been playing overly aggressive on him at the three-point line. That is why his three-point attempts are low. Karl-Anthony Towns in this game, what I thought he did a great job of was he was pump faking a lot, and it got defenders in the air, and then he used that dribble to get to the basket, and he had some tough finishes. He was exploiting mismatches, And his dominance, not on the perimeter, but in the paint, was the biggest reason why he was so great in this game. And OG Anunoby, his defense, the fourth quarter shots he hit, Josh Hart, what he brings, Deuce McBride has some great shots and great moments, and Mitchell Robinson as a defender. Jalen Brunson in the run he led in the third quarter was, I think, where the game changed. 18 points in the third quarter. Cat had 9. They combined for 27 points. But Brunson was just playing out of his mind. There was no answer for him. 39 points and 12 assists. I mean, dare I say that in these playoffs, outside of Giannis, Jalen Brunson has been the best player in the playoffs against this defense, the Celtics defense that is elite, that has no mismatches you can exploit. He has played better than SGA. He has played better than Luka. He has played better than all of these players that maybe people do rank over him, but he has played better than all of them. And over the last 3 playoffs, he's averaged over 30 points per game. What he's turned into with the right supporting cast, a player that is capable of making the NBA Finals, going to the Eastern Conference Finals. He's a champion dating back to college. And I couldn't be prouder of what this team put on display, the passion they played with, because I thought in the regular season, it was sorry. There were moments where I watched them on national television, and I couldn't believe they made these moves, these all-in moves to go on these players. And they got something different in the playoffs from everybody, to the point that I have been turned into a believer. They have done nothing on the court to make me believe otherwise. And I'm happily wrong about this team, because game 1, game 2, the resilience they show to come back and still win those games, that's what matters. And after game 1, when we talked about it, Dels, I said, you know what, I'm going with the Knicks, because there are moments where we get wrapped up into all the numbers. And I think that it's sound, because analysis, I think, for me, comes first. But this playoffs has been the most unpredictable playoffs that we've seen in a while. The 2 top seeds in the East getting knocked out potentially by the Knicks and the Pacers, and that's the conference finals we're going to get. The Nuggets taking OKC down to the wire, and that series is going to be a hell bath. You know, we have gotten amazing moments in these playoffs, and we oftentimes compare the NBA to the NFL and say, well, the NFL is more unpredictable than the NBA, because the NBA, we kind of say, oh, we kind of know who the top teams are and we know who's going to win. This year has been great for the NBA and for people that wanted more parity, because it doesn't get more unpredictable than this. I mean, nobody picked the Knicks and the Pacers to make the conference finals at the beginning of the season, to start the playoffs after the first round. I mean, this has truly been an unpredictable playoffs, and I couldn't be prouder of what the Knicks have put on the court and what they've displayed. Now it's just about winning one more game and getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. I pretty much am very confident that we're going to seal this series, but until we finally make it official, I'm not going to say too much.
I said it after the Pacers win, and I'm going to say it again after this one. This is a win for playoff basketball. This is a win for the fans that were interested in just regular playoff basketball. Just, hey, I'm willing to give it a chance and see what happens. Understand that these are great teams. I said it after the Knicks played the Pistons. I gave a lot of credit for the Knicks to grit and grind through that series, because we had to acknowledge that the Pistons are a good team. They are a tough team. And I think now, even more so in hindsight, where it's a crystal clear 2020, and we see how well the Knicks are responding to, on paper, what should be a much better team than them, kind of reinforces that belief that I had in the Pistons are a strong team. This Eastern Conference, maybe it's a little bit better than what people like to give it credit for. The Pistons are a really strong team. You know that the Magic are young, and they just have some moves that they need to make, and it's clear the moves they have to make, but they have a bright future. You see, obviously, the Cavaliers were able to build, and although they've been a disappointment in this playoffs, they were on track at one point in time to win 70 games in the regular season. The Indiana Pacers have gone and they traded away 3 first-round picks. We went through that whole spiel to go and get Pascal Siakam, all the moves they made around the margins. And now they're looking like arguably the most impressive team in this NBA playoffs. You have to respect and acknowledge how great some of these organizations are and how great we've been able, and what a great result we've seen in these 2024, 2025 NBA finals, or excuse me, this playoff run. It's been great to watch. I've been enjoying it a ton. And even on the West side, where right now we're recording and it's the Wolves versus the Warriors coming into this series, everybody just thought, yeah, the Wolves are going to handle business. Nobody's even thinking anything of it. And the Warriors without Steph Curry are playing strong basketball against them. It's just, you never know what you're going to get in the NBA. And I think that, like to your point, Joel, that hasn't been the case in the past. And I think over these last couple of years, that's starting, especially this year, that's starting to be a new trend.
Yeah, I said it half joking. I've tweeted a couple times that the East is better than the West. And it's still a half a joke, but it's also like, I don't know. Because the Western Conference, like, sure, the Nuggets, or excuse me, the Thunder had a historic season. The Nuggets have been great. The Wolves as a 6 seed are making this great run. The Rockets as 2 seed, but goddamn, sometimes you watch these games and it's like Golden State, even West Steph scoring like 20 points. The Rockets is a two seed scoring like 18 points in a quarter, and it's like the Eastern Conference gets overlooked a lot. And I think we're at fault too. Like, we've all season long kind of looked at the Knicks as a joke. Looked at, I wouldn't call the Pacers a joke, but not a serious threat. We just always assumed, not just us as the podcast, but everyone in the NBA world, it's a 2-team race. It's the Cavs and it's the Celtics. Like, nobody else really has a shot. And maybe that was just, it's tough because all of the evidence pointed that way, because the Knicks couldn't beat top teams. We thought the Pacers were a good team for sure, but we didn't think they had this level in them that they could go toe to toe with the Cleveland Cavaliers and really outwork them. But on the other hand, it's like, you get into a 7-game series in the playoffs, anything could really happen, right? Like you guys said, it hasn't been as common in recent years, right? Like, we've had the few teams like, right, the Warriors for forever, wherever LeBron was for forever. In the last 7 years, Boston's been the ECF basically every single season, have 2 finals appearances. So there are some like mainstays throughout NBA over the last 15 or whatever years at this point. But we have seen now that number one, depth matters a lot, right? Superstar talent is going to push you over the top, but having that depth is necessary to be able to win a championship. And it's easier to put together depth compared to get 2 top 5 players in the NBA like the Warriors did, or like when LeBron joins the Heat, right? It's a lot easier to build depth outside instead of getting just like 2 of the best players in the world, because they're just usually not available. So I think that has changed it a bit too. To talk about the Knicks real quick, because we did a lot of Tatum talk. They deserve all the credit. And Joel, you deserve everything you want to say to me. I think Knicks fans deserve to be able to say whatever they want to say. I know it's a touchy subject because, of course, Tatum goes down. It's like, how do you celebrate? But also, it's like, dude, you went up 3-1 and you're a game away from the Eastern Conference Finals, and you did that with Tatum healthy the entire time.
And I had to hear that. And I had to hear that in the series that games 1 and 2 were flukes and we shouldn't be up 2-0, and it really is a 3-0 series. That's also what I had to hear. So we came out and we won this game, and it doesn't matter. We're up 3-1 now. So, I think Knicks fans are well within their right to celebrate. You can't control injuries. You can't. And it's unfortunate what happened. And I don't agree with any fan that's trying to celebrate that, because I think it's sick. And you have to acknowledge that Tatum is a human being and he's going through a real life situation that not just affects his play on the court, but it affects his day-to-day life. Like, that's a serious thing that somebody has to go through. So I think those fans are out of line, but they also are well within their right to celebrate this win for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, the Knicks are, even though, we talked after the first 2 games, after really first 3 games, you said it yourself, Joel, it's like Boston had been the better team, right? Like, for whatever, there's 3 games, so 12 quarters, like for 10 out of the 12 quarters, Boston was the better team, but that doesn't really matter. You have to be better, maybe not for all 4 quarters, but especially in that 4th quarter, you have to be better. And those first 2 games, Boston was not better. Game 3, they had a blowout win. Game 4, they were awesome in the first half. And then in the 3rd quarter, they were not good. The defense was terrible. The Knicks at one point late into the 4th quarter were shooting 67% in the second half, right? Like, some of that is good offense by New York, but the other part was Boston's defense really fell apart towards the end of the game. So New York was the better team. Like, when you get into these 7-game series in the NBA, it's different than football, where it's like, it's one game, one call changes the entire series, one play changes the entire series, or excuse me, the entire game when we're talking the NFL. But the NBA, you got to win 4 of 7. It's hard to get lucky 4 of 7, regardless of cold shooting for Boston or amazing, moments from McHale or Jalen Brunson in fourth quarters. You got to win 4 of 7. And I don't think, regardless of what happened, anything should be taken away from New York. They were the better team. And as much as I want to come up here and be like, nah, the Celtics are better if they ran this back again, none of that shit matters. The Knicks won. I think they deserve to win. And they have a real chance against the Pacers. I think that's going to be a really tough series. That's a 6-7 game series. I think they match up well against each other. But as we talked about before the show started, Joel, the Knicks have some guys that could throw at Tyrese Halliburton. Siakam could be a bit of a mismatch, especially if you're going to have OG on Halliburton, who guards Siakam. Their offense is just so potent that, one good defender doesn't change anything, right? They have so many guys that could score and facilitate and move the ball. But that's going to be an awesome series. And if you told any Knicks fan that, you're going to be making an ECF appearance with a real chance to make the NBA Finals, if you would have said that in the beginning of the year, I think a lot of Knicks fans would be like, okay, I could see that. If you would have said that at the end of the regular season, they would have said, are you on heroin? Like, are you crazy? There's no way this happens. But that's the reality. You beat the Boston Celtics, one of the biggest upsets we have ever seen. Jalen Brunson is playing at an elite level. Tibbs, who has gotten scrutinized for years about not being able to adjust and maybe being a bit long in the tooth, just an older head coach, is looking like one of the better head coaches, just outcoached Joe Mazzulla, who a lot of people think are, one of the 7-8 best coaches, one of the brightest minds, went toe-to-toe with him. Mitchell Robinson is healthy and looking like one of the best rebounders in the game. Like, the Knicks have a real chance to be able to make this finals push. The Pacers are going to be tough, but I think Knicks fans, like, you have to be able to separate it. Like, of course, the Tatum shit sucks and it's awful, but in the same breath, like, celebrate this. You went up 3-1 against the defending champs that nobody gave you a chance for. So you should be happy about it. Of course, you got to close out the series still, but this is an awesome time to be a Knicks fan. It's the best time to be a Knicks fan in our lives, at least.
And they got a real chance to win the NBA championship. It's not just make the finals. They could win the NBA championship. I look at all the teams left. I look at the Western Conference bracket: Minnesota, Golden State, Denver, OKC. OKC gives me the biggest pause because of their elite defense, but their offense has left a lot to be desired, and I think we are better than them in the clutch. Denver, I think we have Mitch, we have Cat, we have bodies throw at Jokic, we have the defenders for their perimeter play. I don't think they can stop us offensively. And then Minnesota, I think their half-court offense has really looked bad against Golden State. They have not been able to generate good offense. And without Steph Curry right now, I'm looking at the score, and I think they're up. So I'm looking at the Knicks, and I think this year they could win the NBA championship. And before this season, I told Jess, I was talking to her when the Cat trade happened, and I said, she knew I wasn't a big fan of it. And I just looked at her, and I wish I would have followed my intuition in that moment. I told her, babe, should I just say fuck it and just go all in and just fucking root for this team like my dick depended on it? and she was just like, I mean, why not? What if there's something? What if something good does happen? And I say, yeah, but what if it doesn't? Like, and that's kind of the thing I've been battling with. And then seeing this growth from them in the playoffs in real time has really put a smile on my face. I think this game was the biggest reason for optimism for me, because I think in this series, we have not played well outside of the fourth quarters in game 1 and game 2. We played well in the first quarter of this game. I thought our rhythm offensively was so much better. In the second quarter, we played like shit. In the third quarter, we were amazing, otherworldly. But the stretch to begin the fourth without Brunson and seeing McHale hit a flurry of mid-range jump shots, get into his spots. This is the type of offense I think is capable of winning the championship if we're playing through all our guys. Brunson's the captain, and he gets his looks whenever he gets them. But making sure everybody has their moment, everybody has their matchups, everybody has a moment where they're going to touch the ball and they're going to get into rhythm, because we saw just how dangerous this Knicks team is when everybody is involved. And when we had that amazing third quarter, I felt confident because I said, listen, if the Knicks keep it close, even if we're down heading into the fourth, I trust us to have a better fourth quarter, and I trust us to finish that game off just based on what we've done all year long. And the Tatum injury is unfortunate, but I also think even though he was hitting all his jump shots, you kind of live with them. Like especially in the fourth quarter, those shots started falling short. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, like I'm fine with this. Settling for those long jump shots. We're contesting. Well, if he hits them, he hits them. And for this entire game, he was hitting them. And I thought he was going to go off for 50. That's how good he was playing. But I felt like our defensive game plan in this game was sound. We're going to just play the best we can. If those shots fall, those shots fall. But let's control what we can control on offense. And I thought this was easily the best offensive performance of the playoffs that the Knicks have had.
Yeah, last thing I'll say, you brought up the fourth quarter. The Boston Celtics in the fourth quarter, you could basically do the inverse to show how good New York has been. But the Celtics in the fourth quarter of the second round were averaging 20 points per game, 30% from the field, 23% from three, a 92 offensive rating, a 125 defensive rating, a negative 33 net rating. Boston Celtics were dog shit in the fourth quarter. The New York Knicks were awesome in the fourth quarter. And that's the reason why they're up 3-1.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better. My head kind of hurts, fellas. I'm going to thug out the podcast because that's what I do. But I was screaming a lot in the fourth quarter, and it's coming back to bite me. Yeah, I was.
My mind too.
My lips were turning purple. Jess was worried about me. She was like, "You have to take a break."
Yeah, I was getting fucking hypoxic.
Oh my goodness, dude. I mean, I didn't. There was moments where the moment sat with me, but then I kind of reminded myself that it's not over yet, and I let my emotions come out when it's finally over and we make the conference finals. But I was just watching it with tears streaming down my face.
I can't blame you.
Deserved.
I'd be emotional too. Listen,
Yeah.
Just looking at what I had to go
Knicks have
through.
done nothing but leave you miserable your entire life.
I remember when my cousin was trying to convince me that Tim Hardaway Jr. was an all-star player. I remember when we drafted Frank Ntilikina and we drafted Kevin Knox. I remember when my cousin was trying to convince me that Frank Ntilikina was nice, and I told him after 20 games, I said he's garbage, bro. He's garbage.
You gotta tell your cousin to pick a different hobby because basketball is not for him.
I told him it's there was a legitimate Frank Ntilikina hive in Knicks fan base. I thought he was going to be good. Sure. And I just I don't think it's going to be good. Kevin Knox over Michael Porter Jr. over SGA, you name it. All these dudes, even though he was great in summer league, he was awesome. Just seeing the teams that Carmelo had to deal with and the trash that what those rosters were. I think, this is just a testament to, even if things don't look like they're going to pan out on paper, you have to give a team a chance. And I think that's what the Knicks and what the Pacers are an example of. You don't have a top 3 player in the world, even though Brunson top 3 in the playoffs for sure. But you just put out a roster out there that fits who your best player is, and you give yourself a chance. And I think that's just what these two teams have been the epitome of.
Let me give you a little bit of a comparison so we understand the moment. Now, in baseball, there's a general manager. His name's Theo Epstein. In my opinion, I think he's the best GM in baseball, in baseball history. And that's in my opinion. I know that the Yankees have had all these all-time teams, but why Theo is so amazing? He went to the Red Sox. He broke the curse of the Bambino. He went to the Cubs. He broke their curse as well. That lasted almost 100 years without a championship.
Oh, wow.
Leon Rose enters that conversation to me if he delivers a championship to New York. Leon Rose enters a conversation that not many people have a seat at the table. You bring a championship to New York, one that has been desperate for a championship. And I know the Liberty just won, but talking about the core 4 sports, the New York Knicks championship is one of the greatest achievements that we have seen or would have seen if it were to come into fruition. And that's probably going to think when the Giants upset the Patriots. Obviously, we understand that moment. They were heavy underdogs, but nobody gave them a chance. The Knicks have not won a championship since 1973. They've had moments, of course, they went to the finals in the 90s, but for the last 2 decades, they have just been nothing but underachieving or miserable for basically a majority of our lifetimes. if Leon Rose goes ahead and delivers a championship, we're talking about him as one of the great GMs this sport's ever seen. And to me, I will put him in a class with Theo Epstein as two of the best GMs to overcome one of the craziest circumstances. Because before Leon, the Knicks were in hell. They could do nothing. Leon comes in, immediately has a direction for this team, and every move that he's made for them, it just seems it turns to gold. Can't say enough about Leon and what he's done for the Knicks.
Yeah, the Knicks have just been so dysfunctional post 2000s. In the 90s, it was good, but in the 2000s, they had a good team. They made the finals. They had Allen Houston, Latrell Sprewell, Patrick Ewing was on his last legs, but you had a pretty good roster around them. And then Isaiah Thomas starts making decisions for the team, and he fucks it over. I mean, Eddie Curry, give him a big time deal because he had dinner with him. It's just unbelievable. You bring all these washed players at the end of their prime, like Tracy McGrady and stuff. Stephon Marbury. I mean, he had a good moment in New York, but you kind of just bring in these players that other teams didn't want just to sell tickets. And then, I mean, there was some good parts in the early 2010s. Only one good
2010s.
season with Melo. They made the playoffs, but for the most part, they were always an easy first round exit. The team just wasn't that good. Amari Stoudemire broke down, and then Phil Jackson takes over, and he really fucks up the team. And the Porzingis draft pick was good, but outside of that, I mean, his free agency signings were terrible. His drafts were really not that good,
Oh,
and
shit.
I think really just starts with 2019 with RJ Barrett. I think with RJ Barrett drafting Mitchell Robinson, who's the longest tenured Nick right now, re-signing him, drafting quickly, drafting Grimes. That's really where everything started from. Just Scott Perry, I think, deserves a lot of credit in that, to be honest. He does. But
Hearing a lot of trade bait there. Outside of Mitchell. Shout out
A lot of
to
trade bait,
Mitchell.
but a lot of those trade baits is the reason why this Knicks team is
Talk
who they
to
are
him.
now. And Drew's right, because as a Jets fan, as a Mets fan, haven't seen a whole lot of success from my New York teams. But the one thing I know with certainty, every time one of those teams either brought in a free agent or a draft pick or a trade, whatever it might be, everyone always says, if you bring a championship to New York, you'll be loved forever. And unfortunately, for at least those two franchises, haven't really been able to come close. The Mets much closer than the Jets, I'll say that. But no one's ever able to come close. And the Knicks are included in that group as well, right? Like everyone always says, if you go to New York and you get it done, they'll love you forever. If you get it done, they'll love you forever. And no one's really been able to do that. Of course, the Giants, right? 10 plus years ago at this point, but at least in like this current generation that we live in with like social media and everything, no one's been able to do that and really come that close. But this Knicks team, what we're seeing right now is the closest that really anyone has gotten outside of the Mets, I guess. But Leon Rose is going to get a ton of love, but Jalen Brunson, my God, they're going to build that man a statue if they get it done, because he is out of this world good. He could go down, if they get it, the best Nick in history.
No bullshit. For
yeah,
real,
like the path is there for them to like really stamp an historical all-time type of not just season, but like legacies for some of these guys.
yeah, I mean, we done with the 70s, man.
Second round.
With all due
lot
respect.
of work to do. A lot of work to do, but the path is there.
Yo, if they beat OKC, man, I'll be transparent with you, bro. This is the nuttiest season I've ever watched as a fan.
For sure.
Luka Doncic trade. Two teams that almost win 70 games, and the Knicks win a championship. Jimmy Butler gets traded to the Warriors. We just had so much nonsense happen this season.
No, I know, and it wasn't even a cherry on top. The cherry on top was this draft lottery night.
I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. Before this Tatum thing, I thought that this draft lottery was the worst part of my night.
To me, I posted a whole video out there that I really felt, I really felt confident in this internal research I did.
Me up in hindsight, it's hilarious.
No, that was killing me. Bro did all of this research and was like, I didn't think of the script. Sick.
I'm over here thinking of a scenario for the Washington Wizards, and I big brained myself into thinking the Wizards are going to get the pick. I said, okay, the Wizards are going to get it. I mean, it's. I'm not lying to you when I say this. Sometimes it might come across that, but there's so many thoughts that run through my brain every day. And when I was thinking about the team, that was going to win the lottery, the Wizards were the first team that came to my mind. But then I had a thought that I was like, nah, I mean, why? Like, I get it. It's like a good young core. It's exciting, but like, why? But then I started doing this internal research, looking at the numbers and stuff and kind of coming up with the theory. And I said, you know what? Let me write this down. And my first theory was just incorrect. The NBA clearly doesn't care about the conference imbalance. They are more than fine with giving team in the West a star, and that is under the assumption that it is rigged, and people think that it's not rigged. Whatever you might think. My tinfoil hat is on though when it comes to this draft lottery, because it couldn't have been more obvious in hindsight. The Dallas Mavericks missed the playoffs. They have a 1.8% chance to get the first overall pick. They traded Luka Doncic, which I'm already fishy about. I think there's a ton of conspiracy theories around that I think make a lot of sense. The Lakers have a future now. And instead of just coming up with a simple theory of, okay, what would be the most entertaining, best storyline for this first overall pick? I get the Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs stuff, but that would be more dominant than interesting. You would think of that and you would say, damn, that's crazy. They're going to be nice. It's unfair. With the Sixers, and that was the top three. It was the Sixers, it was the Spurs, and it was the Mavericks, number one. For all those three teams to be in the top three, all three teams that have a franchise star for the foreseeable future, even though the Mavericks ones are aging, I think that was bizarre. There was like a 0.00014% chance that was going to happen. But the most interesting one was like, it was in front of our faces the whole time. Oh, Cooper Flagg goes to Dallas, and now Dallas is like going to be a good team next year, because if you look at the roster, Kyrie, when he's back healthy, with Max Christie and Najee Marshall and AD and Cooper Flagg and Gafford and Lively and PJ Washington and Clay. I mean, my goodness, it's a really good roster. Like, how can the NBA make it so the Mavericks can somehow, some way, if things go right, directly compete with the Lakers, and they can have a little conference rivalry going on? It was like, oh, wow, it's the Mavericks all along. You trade Luka and you get gifted Cooper Flagg. On one end, I don't feel too conflicted about it, because I'm very happy for Mavericks fans, even though the suffering was short-lived. Don't get me wrong. They had their moment of suffering where they rioted the streets and were begging for Luka to come back and were calling for Nico Harrison to get fired. Usually fans of other organizations have to deal with that type of misery for years on end, and nothing ever gets figured out. For them to lose Luka, and then like, here's Cooper Flagg. I'm telling you guys right now, it's not going to be too long from now that we're going to get the Mavericks fans with the takes of, oh, it's great to have a two-way superstar and a superstar that plays defense. And the Nico Harrison was right takes are going to be coming and flooding left and right now, because they got gifted Cooper Flagg. And on the other end, the organization, what Nico Harrison did was just such a stupid trade. For him to get rewarded in this type of way after making a dumb trade that would usually tank franchises for generations on end, and for you to just get the first overall pick in Cooper Flagg, I mean, that is bizarre. If you already believed in the NBA lottery conspiracy stuff, I mean, this was kind of like the icing on the cake for you, that, yeah, there's no way that this is a fair process, because there's too much coincidences for it to be just a fair process all around.
The NBA lottery is disgusting. I'm just going to be transparent with you, man. I was eating dinner, was enjoying a nice family dinner. I'm having a great time. I'm like, oh my God, the draft lottery. Forgot that it was on. I throw it on. I get it right in time for the top four. First one announced. The last team that had a 14% chance to secure the number one overall pick in the Hornets, who very obviously need the number one pick well more than the three teams that ended up getting number 1, 2, and 3. The 76ers, I actually would have been more okay with getting the number one overall pick than the Dallas Mavericks. They were horrendous this year. They were injured, but they were horrendous. due to their own doings, but also due to the fact that Joel Embiid was not healthy. Paul George got hurt before the season started, and that injury ended up costing him basically his entire year, where he could just never be 100%. And when he was on the court, he was horrendous. And then, of course, you have the number 13th overall pick. Oh, my God, I'm blanking on the rookie. Any which way, you
Hawks.
guys know, on the Sixers. The TikTok.
McCain?
Oh, McCain.
Thank you.
Yeah.
McCain goes and he gets injured after he has an amazing start to his rookie season. It was a lot that went against them. I would have been okay with that. They get the 3rd pick. Now, the team that I was rooting for, ironically in all this, to get the number 1 overall pick was the San Antonio Spurs. Because you guys know I love Wemby, and it would have been awesome to see the two of them together. We just would have watched a potential dynasty in the making. I really wanted that, so I was excited. The one polar bear in this top 4 was the team that ended up getting the number 1 overall pick. Now, everybody has had their theories of the draft lottery being rigged, all the way back to Tim Duncan, LeBron James, Derrick Rose, Anthony Davis, when he
Zion.
gets traded for Zion Williamson. Not too long ago, when the Spurs get the number 1 overall pick, oh, the lineage of big men. Oh, he goes to the Spurs, where the most prolific French player of all time is from, and they have an amazing French fan base. Oh, now Victor Wembanyama is the number 1 overall pick.
Don't forget about the Cavaliers now.
I talked about LeBron James. They're back-to-back number 1
They had
overall
3
picks.
first overall picks.
That's a fact. While LeBron's gone, they get 3 number 1s. That's very well said, Joel. This right here, I've had enough. 1.8. Let me give them every percentage, because every percentage counts. Take that. That's a life lesson. 1.8% chance to get the number 1 overall pick. And we allow a generational bailout to occur in front of us. I'm sorry, from here on out, I need to see the ping pong ball taken out of the machine and read to us live. I can't believe this. I can't believe that this was actually the real outcome. I've never seen a person bailed out to making an all-time mistake this quickly, this fast. You didn't give it a season. You didn't give it 2. No. It was a matter of months where you allowed Nico Harrison to look justified. That is why I'm so upset at this. You're 1,000% right, Joel. Mavs fans, I'm genuinely happy for you, because you were cursed by your organization's mistakes. Now you're being rewarded for it. So don't listen to me and think that I'm upset at Mavs fans. No, I'm genuinely happy for you. No, this is insane that the NBA would allow such malpractice to be justified. That's why I'm angry at this. And a 1.8% chance. Are you serious? The draft lottery is such a joke that we have actual teams that genuinely need help, like the Pistons a couple of seasons ago, where you gave them 14% chance odds to get the number 1 overall pick 3 years in a row, and they had pick 5 every single year. The Washington Wizards have been in the mud. Shout out to them, because obviously Alex Sarr was the number 2 pick. They had 3 firsts last year. They were able to capitalize, and even still, they were horrendous. And the Charlotte Hornets, who have failed to get out of poverty for years. The Utah Jazz, who I can't talk badly enough about, they're horrendous. What's their direction? They could have used the 1st overall pick as well. They've never had it. How we allow a team who just made the play-in have Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving to get the number 1 overall pick with 1.8%. I really have a hard time sitting with this.
Now, before you go, Dels, it's just funny how mad Drew is about this, because if it was the Spurs, he would have been jumping with joy.
Here's the issue, though. The Spurs were bad this year. Like I justified.
What were their odds, though?
They were about the same.
They definitely were better than 1.8.
Yeah, the top 4 teams outside of the Hornets, the top 3 teams didn't get in the top 4. So the Jazz, the Wizards all fell out. I think the other team was maybe the Blazers. I don't know. I'm probably wrong on that, but I do know that the Hornets were the only team in the top 4 odds
I'll read you the odds right now. So Utah had 14%.
What did San Antonio have?
Yep. Charlotte had 14%. The Pelicans were at 12.5. Another team that got royally screwed. The Spurs were at 6% and a 26.3% chance to have a top 4 pick.
Yeah, so 1/4 chance. It was really a coin flip that I think it was the difference between the Mavericks
and
being number 1
Chicago.
and Chicago being number 1. I'm gonna bring John up here. Then John, you'll give your spiel after Dell's goes.
The Mavericks had a 1.8% chance to get the number 1 overall pick and 8.5% chance to have a top 4 pick. So just them entering the top 4 was a literal miracle of God, let alone getting number 1.
My heart dropped when Washington was announced with number 6. I just couldn't believe it. But let's say the NBA draft lottery is rigged, right? Which I think there's a lot of evidence that maybe can point to that stuff. They do have a state commission person like come in and regulate this stuff, but everybody can be paid off. I mean, the NBA is $1 billion league. Like they could do whatever they want. So I am actually, if it is something they do behind closed doors, and obviously it would never get out because it would just ruin the image of the league. I am actually not opposed to the garbage teams not getting the first overall pick. And I understand that the rebuttal to that is, oh, how are they going to get better? The Wizards, the Hornets, the Jazz. But in the same breath, if you're the NBA, you know what organizations are good. You know what organizations are bad. And unfortunately, in the East, there's a lot more bad organizations than in the West. And we saw it with the Wizards. They drafted John Wall, first overall pick, and really most of his career there for the first couple of years was just kind of wasted. Like we do see moments where first overall pick talents go to organizations that they just waste their careers. Like maybe Zion deserves more blame in the whole Pelicans debacle, but have the Pelicans been all the way transparent with the way they've handled his situation? I think that for the NBA to say, you know what, we're going to step in and make sure, we're going to make sure a talent that is as good of a talent as Cooper Flagg and other first overall picks go to a place where we think they'll succeed. Nico Harrison's one bad move, and it was demonstrably bad, was trading Luka. But I mean, before that, his track record was pretty good. Like he made trades to make sure they made the finals.
This is my problem. Why are we giving him any type of flower?
I mean, but no, I mean, it's fair though. I mean, the Luka trade was bad, but you can't ignore all the good trades he made before that.
Yes,
Son and Quentin Grimes, Son and Najee Marshall.
His amazing resume. He took it and lit it on fire.
But that's what I'm saying is he had great moments as a GM, and whatever you could say about the Mavericks, they're pretty much a well-run organization and have been for a long time. So I'm not opposed to the NBA stepping in and being like, you know what, we're gonna make sure Cooper Flagg doesn't go to the fucking Hornets because he's gonna waste his career there.
LeBron went to the Cavs.
He did.
The Cavs were good in the 90s.
He's hometown.
He went to the Cavaliers.
Hometown.
He went to Cleveland.
The Cavs were good though in the 90s.
Cleveland. He went to Cleveland.
But he was a hometown kid.
Winners.
He was a hometown kid,
not a city of winners. It's actually it's one of the most famous cities for actually how much they lose.
Yeah, but there's a storyline there. He's from Akron, Ohio. He's from Cleveland. That made sense. Cooper Flagg doesn't have any ties to the Hornets. He doesn't have any ties to the Wizards or anything like that. He does. He's a Celtics fan, and I read online that in an interview, Cooper Flagg said he's a big fan of the Spurs. So I was thinking about putting the Spurs in my final team, but I pretty much removed all West teams. So I was totally wrong anyway. But the fact that it came down to the Spurs and the Mavericks, I mean, those are two organizations that regardless of where Cooper Flagg went to, he was going to make an immediate impact, a good organization. And I mean, now the Mavericks healthy next year, when Kyrie comes back, they can legitimately compete. They're going to be really fucking good.
Yeah, Cooper Flagg is going to be such an impact rookie right away. He's getting not Wemby levels of hype, but he's getting a lot of hype. And I don't know what, level he's going to live up to in his first year, but he's going to impact right away because he's a two-way player. He's big. He's athletic. He can defend. He has a lot of traits that day one are going to translate to the NBA and are going to make the Mavericks a lot better. It's at this point so unbelievable, the NBA draft lottery, that it makes you think does the NBA think we're that dumb? How long can this go on before at some point it's so unbelievable it becomes
They don't
I
care
know how to
anymore.
describe it. Yeah, it's like at some point, like this can't be right. Like at some point, something is gonna come up, right? Because we've talked about it year after year. I will say that the one thing that the NBA maybe has going for them is that the last couple of years, right? It's been like, oh, teams with low odds have gone number one overall pick. It's not just this year with Cooper Flagg, right? It's not just last year with Zachary. It's not just the year before. It's been a trend now. I do think I'm a bit torn because on one side, the NBA is a business, right? Like Cooper Flagg going to the Mavericks is so much better for them as a business than him going to Washington or the Hornets or one of these, poorly run organizations. On the other hand, though, you need to give these really, really bad teams a better chance, right? 14% seems really low. And for a while, tanking was like a huge issue in the NBA because the Sixers trust the process. They made a whole brand out of it. Their whole team was basically, we're just going to tank and tank and tank until we get good players. But now there's obviously teams that still tank, right? Like the Jazz have been bad for so long. The Blazers have been struggling, but they have some young pieces that we think maybe, could it be like a 10 seed next year? Probably unlikely, but like, there's a stretch there. I don't think there's a ton of teams right now in the NBA that I'm looking at. I'm like, every night they're going into it trying to lose. They are tanking their ass off like we saw with the Sixers. I feel like the NBA is a bit past that, and maybe in due part because of the lottery and because of the new odds that teams are seeing. 14% chance doesn't mean shit. 14% chance can get you the 5th overall pick very easily, like we've seen, countless times prior. So I do think they need to make a slight change because these bad teams need a bit of a better chance. And it feels unfair. Like I think Mavs fans 1,000% deserve it. Mavericks fans, the two sides you face, like go back to the trade, whenever February, whatever, where Luka gets traded that day, where it's like, holy shit, our franchise is done. Like light this team on fire. This team is never going to be good again. And of course, Cooper Flagg's not Luka Doncic by any means, but now you're sitting here, you're like, holy shit, we have a superstar, number one overall pick that, if things break right, can be a top 5 player. Maybe he won't be Luka Doncic, but he's someone that, with the right team around him, people projecting that this is a guy you can win a championship with. So the sway of emotions that Mavericks fan had, I think they definitely deserve this, but the organization doesn't, Nico Harrison doesn't. And
No.
when we talk about all of these theories about Luka and the trade, and was it this inside job to get them out of Dallas, wherever the case might be, this doesn't help those conspiracies. This only makes it seem more likely that the NBA was like, listen, Luka, the Lakers need a little push here, right? LeBron's 40 years old. The AD thing isn't really working out now. Like, let's get Luka over there, superstar, LA, sunshine. He's going to be amazing for marketing. And you don't know it now, Dallas, but we're going to give you Cooper Flagg. The only thing I will say is that they couldn't have projected the injuries, right? Like,
no,
Dallas,
they couldn't have.
They would have stayed healthy. They make the playoffs, and they're not even a lottery team. So there's no world they would have been able to get the number 1 overall pick. Is it, oh, whenever you're in the lottery next, we'll give you number 1 overall pick? Is that what they told them? But that's the only thing that kind of throws a wrench into it. Because if they're healthy, Dallas is probably a top 6 seed.
This is like the Derek Lively tank job, but like on steroids. Like we're injured. Anthony Davis he played in the play-in. Like if the Mavericks beat the Grizzlies, like this doesn't happen. Like they don't get the number 1 overall pick. So things had to happen for this to happen. But I do think that once they did see the Mavericks in the lottery odds, they're like, okay, what makes the most business sense? And my theory is that I don't think the lottery is rigged every year. I think it is only rigged in select years. Like, for example, the year that Anthony Edwards was the 1st overall pick and Minnesota got it, I don't think it was rigged for Minnesota. I think they just kind of went fair process. Same thing with Cade Cunningham and the Pistons. But there are some moments that, like the Pelicans trading AD and then getting Zion, like Derrick Rose, hometown kid, Bulls, LeBron, hometown kid, Akron, Ohio. I think the Cavaliers, LeBron leaves. 3 first-round picks in that era, and the last one being Andrew Wiggins was traded to go get Kevin Love. Like, I think there are moments where they do rig it, but I don't think every year it is rigged. And I mean, the best thing for the NBA possible is like next year, collision course, Mavericks, Lakers, 1st-round playoff series. Like that is like what they're hoping for, because the Mavericks are good enough to make the playoffs when healthy, and the Lakers are going to be good, obviously, with Luka, LeBron, and Reeves and stuff. So like it did make a lot of business sense. Like if we're looking at it that way. What do you guys say, John?
I want to say two things before I start. First off, prayers up to Jayson Tatum. I think that was one of the hardest injuries I've seen in any playoff game. So I want to say that. Secondly, I'm very happy for Dallas's fan base because when you have a star player ripped from you overnight in the NBA for no rhyme or reason, I don't think any fan base should have to go through that. That being said, tonight, like Drew and Jabal said, that kind of irked me to see teams that have been ethically tanking, good, well-run franchises like the
Ethical
Nets.
tank.
And despite contrary opinion, the Wizards have been a well-run franchise since Will Dawkins has come in.
Absolutely.
Fall in the draft lottery as teams like the Spurs and the Mavericks climbed up. And it bothers me how the NBA draft lottery in 2019 shifted the odds from 25 to 14% for the teams with the three best chances of winning the first overall pick because the league swung the pendulum too far in a direction that made tanking almost arbitrary if you're trying to get a top three pick. I don't see the rationale, and it feels like it's selective. It's like conveniently selective how when you look at it year by year, how the biggest French prospect in NBA history goes to the team with the biggest French mark in 2023, which I love Wemby going to San Antonio. But then this year, without who would have thought the team with the 6% chance getting the first overall pick and a 6% chance getting the second overall pick climbs teams like the Nets and the Wizards and get the second overall pick and a prospect in Dylan Harper who would be number one in every other draft class. While teams like the Wizards, who have been dying, who have been desperate for a franchise player, fall to number 6. As a team like the Nets, which won basically 20 games, falls the 8th overall pick, and now they have to settle for a B-tier prospect. And the Mavericks, which made one of the most irrational, impulsive, and emotional trades I've ever seen get gifted the first overall pick with a 1.8% chance of winning the lottery. And it's crazy to me how in 2019 they changed the draft lottery odds. And what do you know? The two teams that deal a young 25-year-old star to the Lakers then immediately get the first overall pick when the Pelicans had a 6% chance of winning in 2019, and no one thought they'd end up getting it. And they won 33 games that year. And then this year, the Mavericks could have made the playoffs. I think there's a rabbit hole where they do, and all of this goes thrown out the window, and their future would have been obliterated by one single move, which offset all the good moves they made the last 4 years. But it hurts the competitive advantage. It disrupts the balance and the parity in the NBA when you're just arbitrarily giving a team which doesn't truly deserve the first overall pick an opportunity to get a generational player. So
Yeah.
for the draft, I had a tweet at 2. My first was my favorite destinations. I put Flagg at 4 because I love the fit in their front court. And I also had a feeling the Mavericks are going to win because they never once in their franchise history moved up until today. So it felt like it was all kind of brewing to this climax, which not too many people are expecting. But when you sit back and think about it, it really is irritating to see a team basically climb and leap in front of others that really deserve this far more.
Yeah, sometimes things like that, in hindsight, you're like, oh, all the signs pointed to this happening and it happened. I should have like called it. And then I think back to like 2019 when the Knicks had the best odds to get the first overall pick, and they haven't moved up in a lottery since they got Ewing in '84, and they got the third pick and then against Zion, and Zion was like the most obvious Knicks player, so it's weird. I think the only thing that would have made this worse if the Rockets were like the 4th overall pick. I think they're like, oh yeah, now they're just making the great teams be in the top 4. But it's they're the Mavericks, Spurs, and the Sixers outside of the Rockets are the best teams in the lottery. But the Sixers were ass all year long, and the Spurs were really garbage when Wemby got hurt, and then Fox was kind of playing sporadically. And the Mavericks fell off a cliff when Kyrie got hurt, and then AD got hurt. So they all kind of, had some breaks bounce their way to be in this position. My big brain theory is I think there's going to be a 3-team trade that happens. The Pelicans own the Bucks first round picks. That is important. The Spurs are interested in trading for Giannis. At least that's what I believe. The Bucks, in order to go into a full rebuild, need a plethora of picks and a young player to build around. I think we're going to see a 3-team trade where Giannis goes to the Spurs, the Bucks get their picks back, and potentially get the 2nd overall pick from the Spurs to draft Dylan Harper, and they have the guard of the future. And the Pelicans and all this, probably like, they get multiple assets and stuff. But I just think there's going to be a 3-team trade with the Spurs, Pelicans, and Bucks, where Giannis goes to the Spurs, Bucks get their picks in their future back so they can rebuild how they want. And then the Pelicans just get maybe they get the second overall pick and they draft Dylan Harper, because that's kind of what they're missing, a guard on their team, and I think it would fulfill their team. So maybe that happens, but that's what I do believe will happen. We're going to see a 3-team trade, and Giannis is going to the Spurs.
Most definitely would not be upset, not even a little bit, at Giannis being a Spur. That being said, we know the Mavericks had a 1.8% chance to win the lottery, as I've reiterated time and time again. Now, I have the 6 teams that have had the lowest percent chance to get the number 1 overall pick that ended up getting it. Can you name me those 6 teams?
The Chicago Bulls.
Which year?
2009 or 2008.
Yes, that is number 3, 1.7% chance.
The Hawks last year?
Yes, they're number 6 at 3%.
That's a good pull. Oh, if I had to think, it'd be all recent. So I'm going to go with.
You're not too wrong, John.
So I'm not too wrong. 2020.
I'm going with the 2019 Pelicans.
No, not here.
They're 6%. That's a little bit higher. It's got to be 5% or less. So 2020.
I will say it's 3% or less.
Yeah. Okay. 2022 is the Magic.
Just get the
Pistons.
Mavericks are out of here. They're number 4, 1.8%.
The Spurs were not
Knicks
at
and,
the
Ewing 84.
No,
Just
the
looking at
Knicks are not here. But along those lines of another big man.
The Magic.
Shaq.
Right.
1993 Orlando Magic, number 1. They had 1.52% chance to get the number 1 overall pick. All right, now you have 2 left. They are post 2010s.
How about
Anthony Bennett?
That's what I was thinking.
I don't believe it's actually. I don't think
Kyrie.
this was Anthony Bennett.
One of the
Anthony Bennett
three.
was 2013.
If it's 2014, is Wiggs.
It is 2014, 1.7% chance to get the number 1 overall pick.
Rigged.
One left. Spurs 2 years ago?
One left. No, it is not. I'm going to actually get rid of your suffering. It's actually 2011 when they drafted Kyrie Irving. The Cavaliers had a 2.8% chance to get the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, that's another one. LeBron leaves, and all of a sudden, these dudes are just getting the first overall pick left and right.
Yeah.
No, most
Yeah, getting the first overall pick 3 times in 5 years.
3 times.
Pretty insane. I just think if you have a chance to make the postseason, if you're a playing team, you should not be in the lottery.
No.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah.
You
It
shouldn't.
makes no sense to me. I think there should be some sort of disadvantage to having a chance to make the playoffs when you couldn't do it through 82 games.
There also
So-
shouldn't be a damn play-in if you're fucking 14 games out of the 8 seed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Excellent point, Dels.
I just checked the score of the Wolves and Warriors game. 97-77. Wolves are up.
yeah,
I was going to
Wolves
say,
went on a
last I
run.
saw it was
Big
a
third
15
quarter for
point.
them then.
Ant has 30-5. Rando
Yeah,
has
it's pretty good.
26-5. My goodness. The dynamic duo.
But
That
I would
is.
say, as it goes back to the draft lottery, if I'm the Spurs getting Giannis with Wemby, it would be an absolutely disgusting front court pairing. But after getting the second overall pick, I would covet Dylan Harper as best as I can. And given Stephon Castle won Rookie of the Year, I'm not going to say it's Michael Carter-Williams level or his value won't be as high as it ever is right now. But I don't think he fits quite well De'Aaron Fox and Dylan Harper. So if you're going to look to make a big splash, Stephon Castle, the piece I'm most comfortable moving, knowing his value is going to be pretty damn high. He's probably not the most complimentary fourth best player or a third guard. And realistically, if you do keep that set, because I think Dylan Harper can be an all-NBA caliber player and he can play multiple different roles. He's so versatile that you can put him at the 1, you can put him at the 2. I just don't think Stephon Castle is going to develop properly, nor will Dylan if you put them next to De'Aaron Fox. So I could see them making a big splash, but if I'm the Spurs front office, I'm doing everything I can to keep that second overall pick. And I do wonder a little bit with De'Aaron Fox being in the mix, that would kind of limit his development the way it maybe did Harden in Oklahoma City, where you have a budding superstar, a budding star, but he's not going to have the opportunity to really reach his full potential.
I mean, I'm not even sure De'Aaron Fox is going to be on this team long term. I think there's more of kind of a question mark around him. If they draft Harper and they have Castle, I mean, why give Fox a max contract? You have two guards that fit the Wemby timeline better, and Fox isn't even like the most natural fit next to Wemby. So I think there are a lot of different directions that they could go in. Even like Giannis, like if they get Giannis, Fox, Castle, Giannis, Wemby, the spacing of that offense sounds bizarre.
I mean, you also forget that Wemby shoots 36% from three.
Yeah, that's one shooter in the lineup, though.
That's a good point. But
that's the one positive position.
Castle, not a great 3-point shooter, but started to trend in that direction in the month of April.
Like, I think that the Spurs, you're right. They can't have such a short outlook because, Wemby's going into his third year.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have to build this roster around players that, fit him and can space the floor, and all those things just going to eventually run into.
To be fair, that Wemby Giannis front court would be nuts.
Yeah, if they could get Dylan Harper and then those two, they wouldn't forfeit the second overall pick. They would just need to give the Pelicans something to get the Bucks picks. That's really what it is.
I don't see a world where the number 2 pick isn't included in a Giannis deal.
I agree.
Unless
Dylan Harper's so good, I might not be willing to give that.
Can you move Fox? I'm genuinely asking, like, is he able to be traded?
I think he is. It's just tough. It's just what the Pelicans need, what they want back for the Bucks picks. You attach maybe the Bucks picks and Stephon Castle and like Vassell and Sohan and stuff. I don't know. It's a lot of things, but I mean, you're not wrong.
Would you trade Fox and Castle and every pick you own except the number 2 overall pick this year for Giannis?
No.
I don't think it's worth it.
It's so short-sighted because if it's just Harper, Giannis, and Wemby, I think it's short-sighted.
We're watching right now. I mean, the teams that go furthest in the postseason, like Boston last year. Oh, my fault, Dels.
No. I just said I don't think that team's winning a championship.
Like Wemby, we know is ready to go right now, but like, is Dylan Harper going to be ready? Like, he might not be ready till like year 3 or 4, and Giannis is going to be like 34 at that time. So
Harper's your lead guard.
That's okay. 34 is good.
I mean, I don't know. I think thinking about it now, I don't even know if they're going to do it, honestly, because it just seems like they're conflicting the timelines too much. If you keep all the talent you have, and let's say they just go on a splurge of off-season trades where they get Giannis and they have Wemby, and let's say they don't get Harper. He's involved in the deal, but they keep Fox somehow and they go out and trade for like Cameron Johnson. Like I think they would have to make a flurry of moves. Maybe keep Devin Vassell. Like, they'd have to make a flurry of moves for me to be like, yeah, I think the Giannis thing makes sense for them to win a championship right now.
And we're seeing right now in the playoffs, teams like the Celtics, the Pacers, all of them value their picks and are patient in their team building philosophy. And the one team that did shell out a bunch of picks was the Knicks, but they acquired players all in the middle of their 20s. So it's different. You have a longer timeline with those guys. So I don't think it's worth it today for as great of a player as Giannis is to basically uproot your entire draft capital for the next 7 years in the middle of Wemby's prime. I mean, if the Celtics did that with Tatum or if the Nuggets did that with Jokic, it really shoots your chances of building sustainable.
You're right. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Pick a Side Podcast. You guys can follow us on Twitter at Pick a Side Pod, on Instagram and TikTok at Pick a Side Podcast. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.